space for conversation around women's health through the lens of naturopathic and Eastern medicine. I am Sandy Ross, and this is Her Earth Medicine Podcast. This podcast is multi-leveled. Episodes for patient education to graduate practitioner level. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you gain value from this episode. Welcome to episode 2 of Her Earth Medicine Podcast. I am so excited for this episode as we're going to be sharing a topic that I find super interesting and also I feel can give a lot of value to people's health journeys. This topic that's usually discussed only within Chinese medicine schools or for practitioners and advanced levels. And sometimes if you've seen a Chinese medicine practitioner, you would have been given a snippet. But today we're going to be talking about 5-element constitutional typings and really helping you understand what constitutional typing you may be associated with, which can also be a mix of the elements, and what you can do to support your own health journey. So, the 5 elements consist of fire, earth, metal, water, and wood. Within the 5 elements, there's an organ network associated to particular meridians. There's a season, a direction, a colour, a taste, a sense organ, bodily tissues, and the biggest one is the emotional connection. And so without further ado, today we're going to be diving into everything related to the wood element. We often see in clinic many people presenting with conditions in relation to the wood element, and it's a very common one found throughout people's constitution. So I feel like this one will be great for many people, especially men, to have a little bit more of an understanding about. So connecting to the wood element, we have the 2 organs, the liver and the gallbladder. The liver is said to be the yin organ and the gallbladder is the yang. So the yin organ, the liver, comes from, the meridian actually starts at the top of the big toe and it comes through the inner legs up to the inner thighs, coming through the groin area. And so this is where we connect a lot of it with reproduction. And then it comes up to the breast. So anything in relation to abdominal problems and anything connected to the breast in Chinese medicine can be an imbalance within the liver meridian. And then the gallbladder meridian is a squiggly meridian. It actually starts at the side of the eye. So when people get headaches related to anything around the eye, we can often associate it with an imbalance in the wood element. And it comes up to the top of the head and it comes all through the side head and then to the back of the neck. So you know when people feel really tight and they get tight neck and shoulders and they've just got that thumping headache? In Chinese medicine, this is very much associated with the gallbladder. It then comes down the back of the neck and it goes down the side body, connecting right down to the foot. So it's a very long meridian and there's 43 points associated with the gallbladder meridian. And so any Chinese practitioner will be working with these 2 meridians when we're having an imbalance in the wood element. The wood element is associated with the colour green. So anything green in nature, in clothing, in the food choices you make is going to be helping the emphasis of the liver and the gallbladder energy. It's related to the climate wind, and in Chinese medicine, wind and liver are very much connected, and we often see imbalances with wind being things that are pain that can move throughout the body, any itchiness, like conditions related to rashes or atopic stuff. It can all be associated with the imbalance of the wood element. The liver is connected to the eyes as well. So when we're seeing anything that's related to the eyes in Chinese medicine, whether it's myopia or just itchiness in the eyes, dry eyes, red eyes, we often are treating the liver from a Chinese medicine perspective. And then the wood element, I should say, manifests in the nails. So practitioners of Chinese medicine, when they're checking your nails, they're usually looking if they're brittle or dry or cracking or rigid. And this is associated with the wood element in Chinese medicine. From a naturopathic perspective, there's a very different meaning, which we can talk about at another time. The secretions of the wood element are associated with tears. So the flowing of emotions that come with tears is actually a big release for the wood element. So, built up emotions can actually cause stagnation in our liver channel, and so allowing tears to flow can be a huge release and allowing that free flow of that qi we want through the body. The flavour is associated with anything sour. So, when you like lick a lemon or have apple cider vinegar or your kind of sour bitter greens, it's all connected to the wood and liver and gallbladder. The body type in Chinese medicine of the liver person is actually usually the leaner body type. They can be quite tall, and often we see veins poking out. And we think about, with the Chinese element wood, anything related to trees and nature, and you think about the veins sticking out of the arms, a lot like the roots of a tree. The Chinese concept of the wood element has a lot to do with the free flow of energy throughout the body. So when the wood is in harmony, our energy should flow very freely. When there's imbalances, we can become very rigid and it can get stuck, and this can cause disharmonies in the liver and gallbladder. The liver actually stores the blood when we're rested. So if we're asleep, the liver is actually storing the blood. And then this is from a Chinese medicine perspective. And then once we are awake, it'll actually allow the organs to get replenished with that blood. And so when we're seeing problems, associated with anything related to blood, like PMS and whatnot, it can be because the liver is either deficient or it's stagnant and it's not allowing the organs to be nourished with the blood. Same goes for the eyes, like the dryness of the eyes. It's the liver isn't actually allowing its energy to flow up and nourish those eyes and lubricate the eyes. So the wood person, when they're in balance, they'll be super motivated, ambitious, very flexible in nature. They're usually very assertive and confident. They're into, personal development and growth, like in nature. And they're usually a good planner and very organized. That's when that's when the wood element is in balance, but often it's not in balance and we see disharmonies related to that. So the out of balance version of people that are a wood kind of constitution, they can feel very scattered in the mind. They're usually a little bit more inflexible. They're tight. They're irritable. They can get frustrated super easily. Anger is the biggest emotion connected to the wood element. So people that anger really quickly usually have an imbalance in the wood element. Often woody people will crave stimulants such as alcohol, caffeine, spicy foods, chocolate. So if you're one to crave spicy foods like Tabasco and chili and stuff with your food, it can be because there's actually an imbalance in the wood element. So chocolate's actually another one that people will crave when there's an imbalance in the wood element. And what these stimulants do, like caffeine from the cacao and the sugar as well, and the alcohol and the coffee, it actually does give a little bit of a kick to the movement of the qi that is getting stagnated from the liver being imbalanced. So it will give you a quick fix. It makes you feel good for a short period of time, but then it'll leave you with the qi to stagnate again and having the crash. So the idea is to not use these stimulants as a quick fix, is to resolve the root cause of the imbalances within the wood element. And another characteristic associated with the wood element, and especially connected to the gallbladder, is indecisiveness. So if you find that you cannot make a decision and you're constantly trying to pick whether you're doing this or that, it can be an imbalance related, especially to gallbladder. And things like Chinese herbs, dietary lifestyle intervention, and acupuncture can be really supportive for that. So if you've seen a practitioner of Chinese medicine, you may have heard some of these terms before. So some of the conditions that we often diagnose from a Chinese medicine perspective, so this is Chinese medicine diagnostics, not anything related to Western medicine. So some of the pathophysiology we talk about in Chinese medicine that connects to the wood element can be liver qi stagnation. So this one we often see presenting with tight neck and shoulders, constipation, frustration, irritability, waking up feeling very tired in the morning. There's another one called liver blood deficiency, and so this is usually related to female imbalances, women that are having problems with menstruation or fertility. They're tired, they're fatigued, there's lack of blood supply, or they might be anemic as well. We connect that with the liver blood deficiency in Chinese medicine. There can be excess conditions like the liver yang rising, so this is usually the heated conditions, or liver fire blazing. So anything that's very hot-headed, excess when you're feeling really heated and red red, the eyes are really red. Headaches, migraines, all that sort of stuff can be associated with those conditions. We can have blood stasis or blood stagnation, and that can be like painful, crampy periods, like the endometriosis sort of picture. We can often see the liver invade the spleen, and that's a very common one we see in clinic, and that's usually associated to lack of expression of emotions or, overworking the self. And we see this a lot in females, and then basically it affects our reproductive system, our hormones, our digestion, and we can get an array of different symptoms that can fit into this category. We also see deficiency and excess within these meridians as well. So just because you've heard a few of these things that really connect to you, it doesn't mean you have that. It means you could have a little bit of the excess with a little bit of the deficiency together. And so we can see liver deficiency with things like, dry eyes, tiredness, PMS, brittle nails, and where the excess kind of liver conditions are more that very, like I said, red and hot state of mind, that quick to anger, high blood pressure, headaches and migraines with that real big intensity. And then again, we see symptoms related to the liver from a Chinese medicine perspective of tight neck and shoulders is a big one, PMS, constipation, any symptoms in relation to the eyes, whether it's myopia or just dry, irritable eyes, headaches, migraines, hormonal issues, arthritis is one, feeling stuck. And arthritis is because the liver and the gallbladder actually nourish the sinews and the tendons of the body. So very important to have that lubrication within the joints from the wood element. A big one connected with the gallbladder can be fogginess in the mind, so not thinking on clearly, or mood disorders related to, depression is a big one we see in Chinese medicine. And so foods that are really supportive for the wood element is anything that's green in colour. And when I say green, I mean fresh food, no preservatives or anything like that. That's going to cause stagnation to the liver. And so anything that's young leafy greens in particular, so your sprouts, any of your microgreens are going to be amazing. Your bitter greens, kale, spinach, broccoli, bitter gourds, sour foods like lemons and lime, apple cider vinegar. The association of the liver element with a flavour is sour, but bitter foods actually do help to really get that gallbladder going. So we know that gallbladder is stimulated by bitter secretions, and so anything that is bitter is actually going to allow the bile flow to be secreted from the gallbladder, which is really important for digestion. Those with an excess state in the liver, so those really like hot-tempered people that anger really quickly and that get frustrated and get headaches and have problems with their joints and whatnot, they might do better with more of a raw cold diet, and so they can have more salads and leafy greens and stuff like that. That are raw and not cooked, but those with a deficient liver actually tend to do better on a more cooked diet, and in particular things like meats and blood building foods are going to be really good for you. And the liver organ meat is actually one of the best foods that you can eat if you have a liver deficiency in Chinese medicine. So that's pâtés and stuff like that. So I always recommend getting organic liver if you're going to eat pâté, because remember, the liver is a detoxification organ and you don't really want to be putting any of those toxins into your body, especially if it's a non-organic liver. For the foods to avoid in Chinese medicine associated with the wood element, and this is a really big one, I think a lot of people get problems with their liver or their gallbladder from a TCM perspective because of these foods they're constantly consuming, and that is fried fatty foods, coffee, stimulants, and things like alcohol. It's really important to keep these to a minimal, because I see constantly in clinic that people are presenting with these kind of conditions, but they're having all these stimulants. And so when we work with herbal medicine and acupuncture to restore the flow of the qi in the body, they crave these things less. So it is really important to try and find a balance with having just, a small amount of caffeine, a small amount of good quality alcohol. And, with alcohol, you can do things like, add lime and mint and soda together with your gin to make it a more cleaner version rather than having all the other stuff that can come with it. Having a minimum of 1 a day and max 2 of caffeine intake. So it'd be like 1 coffee, and then you could substitute a green tea. Green tea is one of the best foods in Chinese medicine for the liver. It's cooling, so it's really good for those people that do get heated as well. And it's full of great antioxidants, polyphenols. It's got L-theanine in it, which is really good for calming the mind and helping you sleep. The bile production is stimulated from the bitter foods. So any of those bitter greens are going to be really good for you. So, really trying to include some bitter foods in your diet to really help the liver to nourish. There's some great herbs that you can also take for the liver, such as St. Mary's thistle, Bulbplurum is a big one in Chinese medicine, dandelion, Schizandra is another big one we use in Chinese medicine, and artichoke, which particularly does work on that bile flow as well. So some really great things that can be consumed from a Chinese medicine perspective to support the wood element. So another thing we discuss in traditional Chinese medicine is the 5 spirits. And the spirit connected to the wood element is the Hun, spelt Hun. And so when people have an imbalance in the spirit Hun, they can have extreme irritability, they can have increased or overactivity or restlessness, such as ADD and ADHD. They can have rapid racing thoughts. They're easily distracted. They need little sleep, and so they can be insomniacs, but they can still run on little sleep. Poor judgment. The periods can certainly have problems related to PMS or lack of periods, dysmenorrhea. They have an increased sexual drive. There's usually addictive associations, so abuse of drugs, particularly cocaine, alcohol, and sleeping medications. They can be kind of have aggressive behavior and denial that anything is wrong. So when working with a practitioner of Chinese medicine, they can actually support things related to the Hun when they're including the treatment into your prescription. And if you are a practitioner of Chinese medicine, there's a particular point I love to use with these people related to Hun conditions is Hunmen, which is bladder 47. So this point is lateral to bladder 18 on the back shoes. So Hunman is a great point for cleansing the liver organ. It's great for treating addictions and supporting a healthy functioning liver and wood element by clearing away the stagnation that accumulates within the liver qi. So, when anger and resentment have solidified, this point can be a really good one to just help move everything along. So if you're a practitioner of Chinese medicine, that can be something to include in your treatment. For those with constitution of the liver the wood element, from what you've heard me discuss in this podcast episode, some of the things I can say that you can do for yourself right now, today, and moving forward is go into nature. Get yourself in the greenery, go for a bushwalk, go for a swim in the ocean, do anything that puts you back in touch with nature. Move your body. When the liver doesn't have movement, it accumulates and you can have qi stagnation. So if you wake up feeling really tired, that is a sign that there's an imbalance within the liver. And so moving your body, even if it's gentle exercise to start with, if you haven't done it in a while and you're feeling really tired, is super important for that liver qi. If you are new to exercise, I would always suggest find a time that works well for you. So if you are too tired in the morning to wake up, it might be like do a little bit of gentle Tai Chi in the evenings when, if you're a mother, when the kids go to sleep, or allowing yourself, a 30-minute walk every second day. Find something that's practical that you will stick to. That is very important. Limit your caffeine intake. So if you're drinking 1 caffeine drink a day and you're not feeling very good, you're having anxiety or still having insomnia or mood problems or conditions related to your hormones, it might be an idea to rethink your caffeine intake, because sometimes 1 can be too stimulating for people. From a naturopathic perspective, we actually do a genes test, and we can see which SNPs you have that can metabolize caffeine, and it's very common to see people that don't metabolize caffeine very well. So, switching your caffeine intake can be going from a coffee to something like a dandelion or one of those chicory root drinks, which are still giving you that kind of coffee kind of flavor. And if you do need the caffeine intake, you could do something like a green tea or a matcha green tea just to give you that healthy amount of the caffeine. But, it's got things in there that will support the liver at the same time. Reduce your alcohol intake and get real with how much alcohol you are having. Really think about it. Is it doing you any good? Is it making you feel shitty in the mornings when you wake up? Is it causing you to have headaches and not think well? There's no point in doing all these other things if you can't start with some of these basic food and lifestyle interventions. Eat leafy greens is another really big one. And so getting lots of fresh leafy greens, whether you're cooking it like kales and your bitter greens and stuff like that, it's amazing to help really get that liver chi going, support the liver. It's giving you a lot of those B vitamins, folate, and things that your liver actually does require for detoxification. And the other food I would really recommend is to eat the liver organ, especially if you are deficient in the liver meridian. The last but not least thing I'm going to talk about is expressing the emotions. So if you do feel like you have a lot of irritability, frustration, anger, indecisiveness, then you need to find a way to express those emotions. Sometimes the exercise can really help because it allows the free flow of that chi and you don't feel the build up so much of those emotions. Sometimes it might mean journaling or getting them down on a piece of paper so that it's not going around in your head. When the wood element is in balance, you will feel calm, your moods will be more stable, you should have a good amount of energy, you should wake up feeling refreshed and not tired. That's a really big key one to look for. You will have less cravings of things like caffeine and alcohol and those stimulants. And you should have a healthy menstrual cycle as a female and be moving your bowel movements every single day. So there's some of the things that we talk about from a Chinese medicine perspective that are related to the wood element. I hope you got some insight and can apply some of these things we talked about. If you feel like you do have a problem with some of these things I've discussed, reach out to a practitioner of Chinese medicine. They can use acupuncture and they can use herbal medicine and dietary intervention to support your wood element. Thanks for listening, and I'll chat to you soon. Thank you for listening. I have been a practitioner of naturopathic and Chinese medicine for over a decade. I have a master's degree of health science and I am an academic lecturer at Australia's leading natural medicine college. I am available worldwide online for bookings. Simply go to sandyrosshealth.com.